I think we all, especially if you're listening to this podcast, Breaking Barriers, that we want to reach our full potential, or at least close to our full potential as we can. And what if I told you there's many methods, but what if I told you of a simple method? I mean, it's as simple as asking the same kinds of questions that kids love to ask, and that is, why? Think about it. Why? It's the most fundamental question, but also considered to be one of the most powerful questions. It's that spark that leads to discovery, it leads to growth, and it leads to change, your change. And in this episode of Breaking Barriers, what we're going to do is dive into just how transformative curiosity can be, how asking the right questions, questions you might not even realize you should be asking at all, can reshape your mindset, your goals, and ultimately your life. But why does this even matter? Well, because curiosity is the foundation of growth. If you just think about that for a second, curiosity is the foundation of growth. It is what drives us humans to explore the world around us, to explore the unknown, to learn about our environment, to learn about things we don't understand, and to move beyond the limitations we didn't even know were there. So, take early explorers, for example. What pushed them to leave the safety of what they knew that was safe for them, their environment, their countries, their cities? What moved them to cross oceans and to chart the unknown and take risks? And if you answered curiosity, give yourself a point, folks. You're right. Curiosity. They were curious. That burning question of what is out there? What is out there? It's the same question I ask myself every time I walk out the door. What's out there? Am I going to get hit today? Is it going to rain? What's out there today? But seriously, if no one had been curious enough, would we have even discovered new continents? Would we have connected cultures? Or would we have built the global society in which we have today? Probably not, folks. I mean, if nobody was curious, they wouldn't be going anywhere, right? They'd be staying where they were born. Heck, humanity would never have expanded out of that out of the central part of Africa and up into Europe and then the Middle East and Asia and all the way into the United States. So curiosity is what fueled the expansion of this planet. It's what helps you grow. And folks, it's not just history, though. Curiosity has the same power in our own lives. So when you start to ask why about the things that, you feel stuck about, like a job that's draining you, or maybe you start asking why about a relationship that maybe isn't working, or beliefs you've never even questioned, that you've just taken for face value, something begins to shift inside of you. You basically begin to start to uncover the hidden stories, the assumptions, and the fears that are, shaping your reality. And once you see them, folks, for what they are, you can rewrite them. You can choose something completely different once you recognize those limitations. So today what I want to do is challenge you to embrace your inner explorer. Think of the barriers in your life as uncharted territory, and they really are. If you're trying to break away from a certain belief system, it is definitely uncharted and scary for a lot of people. But just think of the barriers in your life as uncharted territory, basically waiting for you to navigate them with curiosity as your compass. Because, folks, when you start asking why do I feel stuck? Why am I holding on to this? Why not try something new? You break down those barriers. And curiosity isn't just a question. It is basically the first step toward possibilities. So with that, folks, let's explore together on this whole concept of curiosity. Let's go ahead and dig into how the power of asking why can help you shift your perspective, challenge your limits, and uncover the path to something, greater for you. So coming up in our first segment, we'll talk about the science behind curiosity and why it's so essential for personal growth. Let's dive in. Welcome to Breaking Barriers with Alan Stafford, the personal development podcast where we break through mental blocks, challenge limiting beliefs, and overcome societal barriers. Get ready for actionable insights and strategies to help you redefine success and unlock your true potential. Okay, folks, welcome back. All right, folks, curiosity is not just something that we do. It actually isn't anything that we do. It's basically something we are. And we are, as a human species, curious. It's built into us. It's built into our DNA. But a question, have you ever stopped to wonder why curiosity feels, I guess, good when you're curious. I guess that would be a safe word to say, good. Why asking why can open doors to new ideas, new opportunities, and even new ways of thinking. Well, you see, a lot of that, like I said, has to do with what's happening inside your brain. And the more you understand the science behind curiosity, the better you can use it as a tool for learning, for growth, and my favorite word, resilience. So let's take a look at how the brain responds to curiosity and why this natural drive to know and explore is one of our greatest assets as humans. First, folks, let's talk about dopamine, okay? Because if curiosity had a best friend in your brain, if curiosity was a thing in your brain, is tangible and it had a best friend, it would be dopamine. That would be its best friend. And I want to touch on what dopamine is if you're not familiar with it, and you've probably heard it, but for those of you that don't really fully understand it, I'm going to give you a brief overview of dopamine. And it's basically a neurotransmitter, which is a type of chemical messenger in your brain that fires responsible for transmitting signals between neurons. And it plays, a key role in how you experience pleasure, motivation, and learning, actually. So now you've probably heard dopamine described as the feel-good chemical, right? And yes, that's true. It does give you that rush of pleasure when you experience something rewarding. But dopamine is, it's so much more than that. I'm going to give you some key things dopamine affects in your brain and your body first. Reward and motivation. You see, dopamine is released when you experience something enjoyable or achieve a goal. And I think you might know what I'm talking about there. This creates basically a positive feedback loop, where you feel good, so you want to do the thing again. You get that dopamine hit, that dopamine rush. So it's like, if you ever solved this tricky puzzle, or completing a task that feels satisfying, or doing something that's very rewarding, that's basically dopamine giving you a little, what you'd say, a high five for your effort. Kind of makes you want to do it again. Like, oh, I feel good. But that's dopamine on reward and motivation. If we take a look at memory and learning, dopamine is critical for memory formation and attention. When curiosity kicks in and you ask, how does this work? Whatever this is, or what happens if I try this? Your brain releases dopamine, which primes you to absorb and retain information. Think of dopamine as the save button for things you learn while you're curious. Dopamine also helps regulate physical movement. This is why people with low dopamine levels, like those with Parkinson's disease, experience issues with coordination and mobility often. And finally, dopamine imbalances are linked to conditions like depression, anxiety, and, schizophrenia. So if your brain isn't producing or regulating dopamine properly, it can affect how motivated or focused or even happy you feel. So while I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not going to diagnose you here, if you feel like you need to seek professional help because of some sort of depression, I would suggest seeking out a medical professional or counselor for that. That was my disclaimer. Now, here's the interesting part, okay? Curiosity naturally boosts the dopamine levels in your brain. See, when you're curious about something, whether it's, a new hobby, if you picked up a new hobby or something, or you picked up a new instrument you wanted to play, or a thought-provoking question, if you're into the, intriguing questions, the deep thinking, or even why someone acted the way they did, your brain basically releases a surge of dopamine. And that's why curiosity, that's why it feels good. It's literally rewarding your brain for engaging with the world. It's like, hey, you're engaged with the world. I'm going to give you a little high five in your head, make you feel good. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. Well, that would be in theory, right? Okay. But let's connect this to learning. There's a groundbreaking study I'll put this in the show notes as well, a groundbreaking study from 2014, which is led by Dr. Matthias Gruber. Basically shows just how powerful curiosity is for your brain. The researchers found that when people were curious about a particular topic, their brains didn't just light up in the areas associated with learning that topic. Curiosity actually boosted their ability to learn everything around them. And so what I'm going to do is give you an example of this. Let's say you're curious about space exploration, and I am curious about space exploration, and that's why I probably mentioned it. Ever since I was a kid, I've always looked into space and wondered what's out there. Is there life out there? But let's just say you're curious about space exploration like me. What you're doing is you're watching a documentary, for example, about, let's say the Mars rover, and you're completely hooked on this documentary. But here's the thing. Even if they started sprinkling in unrelated facts, like the history of volcanoes on Earth or a fun fact about octopus intelligence, you'd probably be more likely to remember those as well. And then you ask why. Well, I'm glad you asked me why. Because curiosity doesn't just sharpen your focus on one thing. It actually primes your brain to absorb all the information you're exposed to in that moment, the moment you're watching. It's like, it's like flipping a switch that turns your brain into a sponge. I don't know if a switch can turn a brain into a sponge, but it's kind of like that if you can visualize that. And have you ever noticed this in your own life? And when you're watching TV or documentaries or engaging in anything, maybe you were super curious about how a new gadget worked that you bought off Amazon or Temu or one of those other shopping sites, and suddenly you remembered every detail of the instruction manual, even things you didn't think you needed to know. I often do that. I'm always telling my wife things she doesn't need to know. That's a different story, a different podcast. Maybe you went down. Maybe you were watching a YouTube, and I do this quite often too. Maybe you went down a YouTube rabbit hole, about some random topic, and I'll find myself doing that all the time, and I'll spend hours on it. But you can actually recall all the little facts that you picked up. I mean, I'll recall quite a bit of stuff that I've focused in on, when I'm trying to learn stuff on YouTube. And that's basically dopamine and curiosity working hand in hand, helping you, remember this stuff and learn. But here's the thing. Curiosity, it's not just about learning facts, folks. It's also a tool for growth. You see, when you approach life with curiosity, you become more open to challenging your assumptions, exploring new ideas, and stepping outside of that infamous comfort zone we talk about, This is where most people tend to fail. They're not curious enough, and so they stay stagnant in their lives, They stay in that comfort zone. I question almost everything I come in contact with or look things up when I don't know or if someone talks to me about a specific subject. And I do a lot of fact-checking, too. So I spend a lot of time researching, which gives me that rush to know something. So I walk around with a bunch of frivolous facts that, or I should say, they're not frivolous to me. They're frivolous to other people. They're like, well, how do you know that? Well, because I looked it up at 3 o'clock in the morning when I woke up. But doing so, this is where curiosity ties into something, psychologists call a growth mindset. And something I've talked about on the show before. People with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities, are set in stone, that they can't change. And these people with a fixed mindset, what they do is they avoid challenges because they see failure as proof of their limits. They failed, and I have a limit, and therefore I can't do any better. But curiosity, it helps you move toward a growth mindset, you see, where you see challenges as opportunities to learn and to improve yourself. Let me give you another example here. Imagine you're facing a tough problem at work, for example, or school, wherever you are. A fixed mindset might say, I can't figure this out. It's too hard. Have you ever heard that phrase? Maybe you know somebody who says that. But if you're curious, this shifts your perspective. It pushes you to ask, what haven't I tried yet? Who can I learn from? Or what other solutions might work? See, then all of a sudden that problem that you're facing, it's not a dead end. It's a puzzle that's waiting to be solved. And puzzles, folks, can be fun. But again, you have to be curious enough. And like I said, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. And here's another way, curiosity can transform your life. It makes you more emotionally resilient. Let's be honest, folks. Life throws challenges at all of us every day. Some of us get more challenges than we really want to handle. Some of us get no challenges. No, that's not true. We're all faced with challenges. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, okay? Maybe a relationship that you really wanted to work out just doesn't work out. Or maybe you're just working on something and you feel stuck or unsure of the next step in your life or the project or whatever it is. It's easy to fall into the trap of asking, why is this happening to me? I mean, I used to do that a lot. Why is this happening to me? The world's against me. But you see, curiosity gives you the power to reframe those moments. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Curiosity basically helps you ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? How can I solve this here? What am I not doing correct? For example, let's say you didn't get that promotion, okay, that you were hoping for at work, or maybe you didn't get that grade you were hoping for in class. So instead of spiraling into self-doubt, what curiosity does for you is it leads you to ask questions like, what feedback can I get to improve? Like, can I ask somebody for feedback? Did I not study enough for the test? What questions did I miss? Or how did I get looked over for this promotion? What do I need to do? And then it also helps you, understand what skills can I develop to prepare for the next opportunity. It's that shift from self-criticism to self-improvement which makes all the difference. Get you out of that defeatist mode. And research even backs this up, folks. Studies show that curiosity reduces stress and increases well-being. It helps you focus on growth rather than getting stuck in negative emotions, which we're all good at, right? Because when you adopt a curious mindset, setbacks become, temporary and even valuable because you're constantly learning and adapting from them. So how can you put all of this into practice? And that's why we're here, to help you put this into practice. I'm going to give you 3 simple ways to bring more curiosity into your life. First, ask open-ended questions. The next time you're stuck, try asking questions like, what's another way to approach this? Or what haven't I considered yet? And these questions, they keep your mind opened and engaged. Or you can seek out the unknown. Make it a habit to explore things you don't understand. Maybe a culture, a new topic or a skill. Curiosity thrives when you step into unfamiliar territory. This is why traveling to other countries is so beneficial. You learn about other cultures, you learn about their history, and you realize, hey, we're all one, we're all the same. And 3, on how to bring more curiosity into your daily life, reframe challenges as opportunities. Instead of seeing a problem as a roadblock, like most of us will, view the problem as a puzzle, trying to put something together. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this help me grow? The more you practice your curiosity, folks, the stronger it becomes. It's just like with anything. When you practice it, you get better at it, right? And as you strengthen your curiosity, what you'll do is you'll find it reshaping not just what you know, but how you think, how you feel, and how you live. Okay, next up, we'll talk about the key to challenging our assumptions. All right, folks, let's talk about assumptions. Those little sneaky little beliefs or thoughts we accept as true without ever really even questioning them. Assumptions are, known as mental shortcuts. They help us make sense of the world quickly and basically, often save us time and energy. But here's the thing. When we don't examine these shortcuts, they can turn into barriers for us, roadblocks. They silently shape our decisions or our actions and even how we see ourselves, sometimes without even realizing it. And I would go so far as to say we often don't realize it, that we have these barriers. We play them out in our head as though they're natural. I'm going to give you a quick example here. Imagine someone, who believes, this is someone who says to themselves, I'm not a leader. Maybe that belief started because they're naturally introverted, for example, and they don't think introverted people can be leaders. Or they failed at leading a group project one time, maybe in high school or grade school or something. And over time, that assumption they have about not being a good leader becomes a fact in their mind. It's not real, but it becomes a fact to them in their mind, and they avoid leadership opportunities entirely. And they don't volunteer for new challenges at all. They don't step forward in meetings, and they don't even see themselves as a candidate for leadership roles. But here's the truth. Assumptions are not facts, people. Most of the time, they're just these stories we've created based on fear we've had, maybe our past experiences or even, expectations placed upon us by family or society around us. And the longer we let those stories go unchallenged, the more power they have over us, people. But here's the good news. Asking why can help you break free from those assumptions and basically rewrite your story. You see, at its core, asking why is about curiosity. It's about being willing to look at the beliefs you've held on to and saying, wait a second, wait, hold on. Is that really true? The question why peels back the layers of your thinking, It forces you, to go deeper, to challenge the things you've taken for granted and to even uncover what's really driving your thoughts and decisions. But here's what makes why so powerful. It's not just about dismantling assumptions. It's about replacing them with possibilities. And that's the key part there. That's the important part. Replacing them with possibilities. Because when you start questioning your assumptions, you open the door to new perspectives, new ideas, and ultimately new opportunities. I mean, it's like clearing away the fog, so you can see what's in front of you. I don't know how you clear away the fog, though. You probably have to blow it with a blower. But in any event, it's like the fog clearing, lifting in front of you, and you're able to see. So now let's break this down into something actionable for you. How do you actually use why to challenge your assumptions and, create change? And it starts with a 3-step process. The first step is to bring the assumption out of hiding. That's what I said. It's in hiding. Trust me, folks, your assumptions are hiding. Assumptions are basically, they're tricky because they tend to operate in the background of our minds. And we rarely stop to think about them because they just feel true. They feel like that's part of us. It's like it's our reality. So the key here is awareness. Ask yourself, what belief am I accepting as true without even questioning it? For example, let's go back to the person who says, I'm not good at public speaking. That's the assumption. And it might seem harmless on the surface. Maybe they just don't enjoy public speaking. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll see how that assumption shapes their behavior. See, they avoid presentations at work. They turn down opportunities to share their ideas. And over time, they miss out on that chance to grow. So the first step is to name the assumptions. Write it down, say it out loud, scream it in the street if you have to. But whatever helps you, shine a light on it, okay? And once you've named it, you can start to break it down. Okay, step 2. You've identified the assumption, right? So the next step is to figure out where it came from. This is where the question why comes into play. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? Here's where it gets interesting, folks. When you start digging, you'll begin to find out your assumptions aren't based on any hard evidence at all. They're actually based on these stories that you tell yourself. Maybe it's a single experience you had or in the past, or maybe it was like, you bombed out on a school presentation and you felt embarrassed or something. Or maybe it's something someone said to you. Maybe a teacher, a parent made an offhand comment and it stuck with you. This happens way too often in school. I used to be a high school teacher, and I remember sitting in the teacher's lounge and listening to some of these teachers, and the stuff they would say about these students or how they would talk to them was appalling to me. I'm thinking, you're there to educate a student, and you're talking down to them. No wonder these kids get out of here even if they graduate and do nothing with their lives because they've been berated by the teacher. But that's a whole different podcast. We're not going to go down that road. I'll tell you what curiosity teaches us. Just because something happened once doesn't mean it's a universal truth, okay? That high school presentation, it doesn't mean you're bad at public speaking. It might just mean you were nervous or unprepared, which is something you can work on, right? Or if a teacher or parent told you something, it doesn't make it true. It's just their opinion, and it was that one moment in time. So step 2 is all about tracing the assumptions back to its roots so you can start to separate fact from fiction. And the third and final step is where the magic happens, folks. Once you've questioned the assumptions, it's time to open the door to new possibilities. Ask yourself what else might be true. There might be other things in your head. Let's stick with the public speaking example. Instead of accepting I'm not good at public speaking, what if you considered maybe I'm not bad at public speaking. I've just never really had the right training. That's a good possibility, right? It's another way to look at it. Or maybe I'm better than I think and I just need more practice. Or what if I focused on improving one small aspect like eye contact or tone? See, this step is all about reframing our belief. It doesn't mean, you have to suddenly believe the opposite of your assumptions right away. No. It just means you're giving yourself permission to see the bigger picture. And when you start asking what else might be true, you realize that the original assumption really isn't the whole story. It's just one version of the events. Let me share a real-life example of how this process works. There was a coworker I once worked with who believed they, weren't creative. And I believe that everybody is creative to a certain degree, some more so than others, but everyone has creativity. But this coworker believed they weren't creative. And this assumption had been with them, I guess, since childhood. And maybe they weren't even good at art class, or they didn't get praised for their ideas growing up, which happens. But over time, they internalized that belief and, basically saying that they're not a creative person. Well, this belief basically shaped their entire career. They avoided anything that seemed creative, like writing, design, or brainstorming. Instead, they stuck to the analytical work that they did because it felt safe. It was their comfort zone. But deep down, they felt stuck. And then one day, this individual decided to question their assumption. They asked, why do I believe I'm not creative? And then they realized it wasn't based on reality. I mean, and I'm making this story real short, but it took some time for them to come to this conclusion. So they realized that, it wasn't based on reality why they weren't creative. It was based on outdated feedback and a fear of trying something new. And from there, well, they started small. They took on creative tasks in low-stakes situations, like coming up with ideas for a team project. And they discovered they actually loved thinking outside of the box, the abstract thinking. And, over time, their confidence grew. Eventually, they launched their own business. And it was one that thrived on innovative, creative ideas. And as today, it is a successful marketing agency with some big-name clients. And that transformation wouldn't have happened, wouldn't have been even possible without asking, why do I believe this and what else might be true? Folks, you just don't know until you ask the question, right? Get out of that comfort zone. Break free. All right, folks, I'm going to turn the table, and it's your turn now. Think about an area in your life where, you feel stuck or you're limited or you feel limited. What assumptions might be holding you back? And take a moment to write that down. Ask yourself why you believe that, and then explore what else might be true. I mean, this process isn't about forcing yourself to change overnight. It's not about that at all. It's about getting curious. It's about opening up the possibility that the stories you've been telling yourself might not be the whole story, people. And when you do that, you create room for growth, for action, and guess what? You create room for change. All right, folks, coming up in the next segment, we'll dive into how you can take this practice even further by learning to ask better questions and cultivate curiosity in your daily life. Because the better the question you ask, the more barriers you'll break down. We'll be back. All right, folks, we've already explored how asking why can help you challenge assumptions and uncover those hidden truths. But let's take it a step further. Asking great questions isn't just about solving the problems or addressing what's holding you back. It's about creating a mindset of curiosity and openness that transforms how you approach every area of your life. And here's the thing, folks. Your questions, well, they shape your focus. They determine whether you see roadblocks or opportunities, whether you stay stuck in a fear or, move forward with purpose. So how do you start asking better questions? Well, you just start asking them, right? No. How do you start asking better questions? Seriously, it begins with, understanding the characteristics of powerful questions and learning practical techniques to make curiosity a daily habit. You see, this isn't about having all the answers at all. I'm never advocating that you're going to have all the answers. It's about learning how to ask the right questions that guide you toward growth, discovery, and action. And that's where we want to be, towards growth, discovery, and action. And not all questions are created equal. Some questions spark curiosity and possibility, while others, well, shut them down. Great questions, ones that, drive growth and self-discovery, share three important traits. And I'm going to break them down for you, okay? You see, great questions don't limit you to a yes or no answer. Instead, they invite exploration and deeper thinking. They often start with words like why, how, or what if. That's my favorite one, is what if. I'm always asking what if questions. So, for example, imagine you're struggling with a skill you're trying to learn, okay? Instead of asking, am I bad at this here? Which is a question that shuts down the conversation. Try asking something like, how can I get better at this? Do you notice the difference there, between am I bad at this or how can I get better at this? The first question basically reinforces doubt and finality. It's the end. While the second one basically opens up possibilities and puts you in a problem-solving mindset. You see, open-ended questions lead you to growth, not dead ends. And non-judgmental questions would be the second trait, okay, for asking great questions. And the best questions come from a place of curiosity here, not self-criticism. So don't beat yourselves up. When you ask questions that are judgmental or blame-focused, it's like putting up a wall. It's like building that wall. You stop yourself from learning anything. For instance, instead of asking, why do I always mess this up? I'm sure you're familiar with that probably. Try, what can I learn from this experience so I can do better next time? You see, by removing the judgment, you create a space for growth. And you're not blaming yourself for the past. You're focusing on how you can improve moving forward. And that's what I always tell people. You're not in the past. The past is gone. Don't live there. Just look at the forward. Just move forward. Whatever you've done in the past is done. Just learn and move forward. And finally, great questions guide you toward action and new possibilities. They're forward-looking, like I just said. Focusing on what's possible instead of dwelling on, what's not possible and what you can't change anymore. Let's say you're stuck on a project and feeling frustrated. Instead of asking, why isn't this working, try reframing it. What can I do differently to make this work? Or what's one new approach I haven't even considered yet? See, growth-oriented questions are like little seeds, They plant ideas that can grow into solutions, insights, and new paths forward for you. All right, so now that you know the traits of good questions, let's talk about how to use them in your everyday life, as opposed to not your everyday life. Here are 3 simple but yet powerful techniques to help you make better questioning a habit, okay? Number 1 is the 5 whys method. And this one is one of my favorite techniques because it's so simple but incredibly effective. And the idea is to take a problem or belief and ask why 5 times. Each answer basically leads you deeper into the root cause of the issue. So let me give you an example. Let's say the problem is I feel unfulfilled at work, okay? That's my problem. I don't feel fulfilled at work. First question, why? Well, because I'm not passionate about my job. Well, why? Because it doesn't align with my values. Why? Because I took this job for financial stability, not personal fulfillment. Why? Because I was afraid to pursue what I truly wanted. Why? Because I didn't believe I could succeed in something I love. And I think that's a number 1 problem. I don't have any statistics for that, but I'm just going to throw this out there, folks. I think it's the number 1 problem why people get stuck in their jobs, that they don't feel they can do something and make money at something that they really love. But if you've gone through this exercise, by the end of it, what you've uncovered is the core issue. It's not about the job itself. You see, it's about a deeper belief in your own potential. Like I just said, once you reach that level of clarity, you can start, thinking about solutions. Maybe it's exploring a career that aligns with your values or finding ways to bring more meaning to your current work. And here's another technique to help you make better questioning a habit. Reframe problems as questions. When we face challenges, our first instinct is often to get stuck, in the problem, of course. We think things like, this isn't working, or I don't know what to do. But if you reframed the problem as a question, for example, instead of saying, this isn't working, ask, what can I do differently to make this work? You see how the shift in mindset there is? Or instead of thinking, I'm stuck, ask, what's one small step I can take to move forward? See, there's a big difference. I'm stuck is fatalist. It's the end. What's one small step I can take to move forward is solution-oriented, is forward-thinking. Okay, it's a growth mindset. And this simple shift changes everything. Problems become puzzles, and puzzles are meant to be solved, right? When you turn challenges into questions, you stop focusing on what's wrong and start looking for what's possible. No, and then we have ask future-focused questions. Curiosity, folks, isn't just about understanding the past or the present. It's also about imagining what's possible for the future. Now, I keep talking about the future. There's a common theme here. You see, future-focused questions help you set goals, dream bigger, and even chart a path forward. We always want to be thinking forward movement, not backwards movement. Let me give you a few examples. What do I need to learn to achieve my goal? Or who can help me on this journey? Or what's one new skill I can develop to move closer to my dream? You see, these kinds of questions keep you moving forward. They remind you that the future is yours to shape, okay? And that every action you take today can bring you closer to where, you want to be. All right, so now that we know how to ask better questions, right? Let's talk about how to make curiosity a habit for you. And one of the easiest ways to do this is by journaling with curiosity-driven prompts. So, set aside 5 minutes at the end of your day and reflect on these 3 simple questions. 1, what surprised me today? And this helps you notice things you might have overlooked and reflect on the unexpected. Question 2 is, what's one belief I can question? And again, this here question keeps you in the habit of challenging assumptions and staying open-minded. And then what's one thing I want to learn more about? And this basically fuels your curiosity and keeps you focused on growth. And over time, this practice, it will train your brain to see the world through a lens of curiosity. You'll start noticing patterns, opportunities, and possibilities that you might have missed before. It's a small habit, but it can lead to a big change. But be consistent with it. See, asking better questions is a skill anyone can learn. I mean, it takes practice, of course, sure, I'm not going to lie to you. It does take practice, and you got to be consistent with it. But the rewards, folks, they're worth it, man. I'm telling you, they're worth it. When you make curiosity a habit, you open yourself up to endless possibilities for learning, for growth, and that transformation that you so much want. So what will you start asking yourself today? Think about that. All right, let's shift gears and dive into the real transformative power of curiosity. We've talked about the science, the techniques, and the mindset, but what does this actually look like in action, real life? This isn't just about abstract theory, folks. It's about real-world impact. When you start asking the right questions, when you use why and other curiosity-driven questions with purpose, you unlock doors you didn't even know were there. And to bring this to life, I'm going to share two stories. The first is about how curiosity sparked an industry-changing innovation, and the second is about how self-inquiry can create profound personal growth. Both stories show how asking why can take you from feeling stuck to creating something truly extraordinary. So we'll start with the story of Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. You see, Sarah's journey began with a problem most of us would have just accepted and did up until that point. She was getting ready for a party and wanted to wear, a pair of white pants, but nothing she tried gave her a smooth look she was going for. You know what I mean? So she improvised, okay? She cut the feet off a pair of pantyhose, but there was a problem. You see, the edge rolled up and it didn't stay in place. Now, here's where most people would stop, okay? They think, well, I guess there's no solution for this, and that's true, right? And then just move on. But not Sarah. See, she got curious. You see, she asked herself, why are pantyhose designed this way? Why do they even have seams at the feet? And most importantly, why hasn't anyone created a better solution for this? That one question, why hasn't anyone created this yet, was the spark that started everything. Here's what makes her story so powerful. You see, Sarah didn't have a background in fashion. She didn't have a background in textiles or even manufacturing. She had no industry connections, but instead of letting those limitations stop her, she leaned into curiosity and kept asking more questions. How can I create something better? What materials would work for this? Who can help me turn this idea into a product? With persistence and curiosity as her guide, Sarah developed the first prototype of Spanx. Now, I don't wear them, but I'm a guy. I don't even know, do they even make Spanx for guys? I'm not even sure. But in any event, I'm familiar with them. And she basically revolutionized the shapewear industry and became one of the most successful self-made women in the world. And all of this here started with a simple question, why? A willingness to question something that most people took for granted. So the takeaway here is that curiosity isn't just about solving problems. It's about seeing possibilities where others see roadblocks. It's about asking questions no one else is asking and then daring to follow where those questions lead. Now let's bring this closer to home with a story about personal growth, because the power of curiosity isn't just limited to big innovations. It can create profound changes in your life, as I've discussed. Let me tell you about Alex. Alex was someone I worked with who felt completely stuck in their career. They'd been in the same job for years, and while it paid the bills for them, it left them feeling drained and uninspired. I mean, they got cranky too, but that's a different story. But like so many of us, Alex had accepted this as just how work is supposed to feel, It's how it's supposed to be. He thought everyone's job is a grind. It's normal to feel this way all the time. But one day, Alex decided to get curious. Instead of just accepting their dissatisfaction, they asked, why do I feel so stuck in the job? So through journaling and self-reflection, Alex began peeling back the layers. He would ask, why do I feel stuck? Well, because this job doesn't align with my values. Well, why doesn't it align with my values? Well, because I'm not passionate, or I'm passionate about helping people, and my role doesn't allow me to do that. And then he asked, why am I still in this job? I'm sure everyone would ask that. And it's because I'm afraid of failing if I try something new. And that's the truth, folks. And that's where a lot of us find ourselves. And here's the breakthrough, folks. Once Alex uncovered these patterns, he realized the problem wasn't the job, it was his fear of change, which is a common fear we all have. And it was that clarity that empowered him to start exploring new opportunities. And within a year, Alex transitioned into a role in nonprofit management, where basically he got to work on projects that made a real difference in people's lives in the community. He went from feeling stuck and drained to feeling energized and fulfilled, all because he started asking the right questions. And Alex's story is proof that asking why isn't just about understanding your situation. It's about taking action based on that understanding. It's about using curiosity to move past fear and create the change that you've been craving, basically. It's to seek your passion. Now let's make this personal for you. Think about one area of your life where, you feel stuck, frustrated, or dissatisfied. Maybe it's your career or relationship or even a personal goal you've been struggling with. Grab that notebook or your journal or a piece of paper or even the Notes app on your iPhone or Samsung, whatever phone you have, smartphone. And I want you to try this simple exercise. Ask, why am I feeling this way? This will help you basically start exploring the root of the issue. Then dig deeper. Why have I been holding onto this belief or behavior? And this question helps you uncover, the stories or fears that might be holding you back. And then finally ask, why haven't I explored an alternative? And this question is designed to open the doors to new possibilities for you. And don't rush the process, okay? Give yourself some time to reflect. This is not a race. The goal here isn't to solve everything all at one time. It's to start seeing your situation through the lens of curiosity, to open up new ways of thinking about what's possible. Okay, folks, let's take a moment to zoom out and ask ourselves, why does curiosity even matter? I mean, what makes it such a powerful force for personal growth anyway? Well, here's the truth, okay? Curiosity is the spark that ignites transformation. I've said this throughout the show. It's not just about gathering, the facts or solving problems. It's about opening the door to new perspectives, new possibilities, and new opportunities. When you ask questions, especially ones like, what if, or why does it have to be this way? You're doing something profound. You're challenging the limitations that have kept you stuck. You're stepping into the unknown, and that's where growth happens. Think about it. Every breakthrough, whether it's in your personal life or your career, starts with a single question. Questions like, what if I tried this instead? Or why am I holding on to this belief? They're the foundation for change. And here's the best part. Questions don't just help you gather information, they expand your perspective. They challenge the status quo. They invite you to see the world and yourself differently. But curiosity, folks, doesn't just stop with you, okay? It has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect that touches every area of your life. Let me show you what I mean. In relationships, curiosity fosters empathy and understanding. When you ask, why does this person see things this way? Or what's driving their behavior? You're practicing connection. Instead of jumping to conclusions, you open yourself to their perspective. And that's how you build bridges instead of walls, even in the toughest conversations. And creativity, Curiosity is the engine, basically, of innovation. It pushes you to think outside the box, to challenge the obvious, and to explore ideas you might have dismissed before in your life. Questions like, what if we tried this instead? Or how else would we solve this problem? And these are the ones that lead to breakthroughs, or the questions that lead to breakthroughs. And then also in problem solving, when you're curious, challenges become puzzles instead of obstacles. You're trying to put something together. So instead of saying, this is impossible, curiosity basically nudges you to ask, what's one way I could approach this differently? And it's that shift in mindset that can be the difference between staying stuck and finding a solution. And here's what's so powerful about this ripple effect. The more curious you are, the more your world expands. It's like the universe expanding, your universe expands. You create new opportunities, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. Curiosity isn't just about you. It's contagious. It really is. It inspires others to think differently, to approach challenges with an open mind, and to dream bigger. So how do you keep curiosity alive in your daily life? How do you make it more than just an occasional thought and turn it into a habit? It starts with a simple commitment, folks. Ask why, just one more time every day. And here's what that looks like. When you're faced with a challenge, ask, why is this happening and what can I learn from it? When you're about to make a decision, ask, why am I choosing this? And is this aligned with my goals? And when you're in a conversation, ask, why does this person feel the way they do? What's shaping their perspective? You see, these small, intentional moments of curiosity, well, they add up. They help you move through frustration, through confusion or hesitation, and guide you toward that solution, toward that insight, and toward understanding. And let me challenge you. So tomorrow when you encounter something that makes you pause, a moment of frustration, hesitation, or even just curiosity, ask why. Ask why one more time than you normally would, and then see where that extra moment of curiosity takes you. You see, curiosity isn't just a tool, folks. It's a way of seeing the world. It's a mindset. It's a habit, a practice. And when you embrace it, you unlock something incredible, a life that's richer, more connected, and full of so much more potential. And the impact of curiosity is everywhere. It's in the relationships you build, the problems you solve, and the personal growth you achieve. So keep asking questions, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep challenging yourself to see beyond the surface of things. All right, folks, before we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored today. Curiosity is more than just asking questions, as we've talked about. It's the key to unlocking doors you didn't even know existed. Every time you ask why, you're challenging the assumptions that keep you stuck, uncovering hidden truths and expanding your potential in ways that might surprise you even. We talked about how curiosity activates the brain's reward system, making growth and learning feel exciting and rewarding. We even explored how asking why helps you break through limiting beliefs and find opportunities for change. And we looked at how curiosity creates a ripple effect, enhancing creativity, strengthening relationships, and transforming the way you approach your challenges. And at its core, curiosity is the foundation for personal growth. It helps you connect more deeply with yourself, with others, and with the world around you. And that's a superpower we can all cultivate. Now, here's my challenge to you. Take one belief, one assumption, or one situation in your life today and ask why 5 times. Start with something you've been struggling with. Maybe it's feeling stuck in your career. Maybe it's recruiting or a recurring habit, like procrastination. Or maybe it's a question about a relationship. Whatever it is, write it down and use curiosity to start peeling back the layers. And here are some questions that help guide you. Number 1, why do I feel this way? Number 2, what have I been holding, or why have I been holding on to this belief? And 3, why haven't I explored other possibilities? You don't have to have all the answers right away. But the goal isn't to fix everything in one sitting. It's to start the process. It's about getting curious, exploring, and opening the door to new ways of thinking for yourself. And if you commit to this small step, I guarantee you'll start seeing things differently. You might uncover something completely unexpected. You might feel a shift in your perspective. And most importantly, you'll take the first step toward breaking down the barriers that are holding you back. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today on Breaking Barriers. Remember, every time you ask why, you're taking a step toward greater clarity, growth, and possibility. Stay curious, stay open, and keep growing. Until next time, take care and keep breaking those barriers.